that they kept talking about, it's past my bedtime, Mary. I've been in this business too long.
That's for sure.
But it struck me that these people kept saying, well, we need to be able to protect ourselves. That's why we have to have these guns. That's the way you protect yourself. Well, the chief and I and a lot of other people could give you numerous examples of why that's not true. And in one case that stands out in my mind, a couple of years ago in a Midwestern city, there were 4 police officers in uniform having breakfast in a small cafe, and a gunman came in and killed all 4 of them before they could remove their guns from their holster. And you know, I don't know how else you convince people that their argument is just nonsense. It really is.
Ignore who the gangbangers are.
But anyway, getting back to the mentally ill part of it, and I would agree with the NAMI people and the mentally ill people, and I'm not saying that they're mentally ill. I didn't mean that. I apologize. But the vast majority, probably 90-some% of the mentally ill people are not violent, and they're not the ones that are causing the problem. But there are some severely mentally ill people that are the problem. One of the things we started doing after January the 8th is trying to sit down and figure out what we could do about people like Jared Loughner. And I'm sure you all know the story. And we looked at really what happened at Pima College and Jared Loughner. Jared Loughner didn't qualify under any of the criteria that we have to use by the law for being committed involuntarily. As a matter of fact, he had never received any treatment at all, ever. But he was severely mentally ill, so much so that teachers were being escorted from their classrooms to the cars in the parking lot because they were so terrified of this individual. But never once did he threaten to kill anybody, or did he threaten to kill himself. And those are the 2 primary criteria that you need to prove in order to get somebody forcibly committed. So we decided that we were going to look at every issue that was put before us that kept us from dealing with mentally ill people. As the chief can testify, and any officer in the room here can testify, that we deal with mentally ill people on a regular basis. Police officers probably are better trained than anybody in the community, in my opinion, to look at people and judge who they think is dangerous and who is not dangerous. And we run across these people all the time. We have a MAC unit, which maybe some of you are even part of that MAC unit, that we use in emergency circumstances where we see somebody who is a real danger that needs to be dealt with because of mental issues. But they are hamstrung, as most of the people in the mental health providing community are, by the law. And unless they can prove these 2 things, there's nothing they can do about it. Well, we're trying to do something about that, and we have created a system. The city of Tucson is a big part of the operation. We call it MIST, which is Mental Health Service whatever.
There's your competency.
But we have people assigned now to units to do a number of things, and one of them is to go out and make sure, because we found out, looking at the system, which basically isn't a system, that many of the people who had court orders ordering them to be incarcerated weren't being served. And we decided that something had to be done about that. And so we're in the process, the city's in the process, and we're trying to get the entire community involved in the process to deal with that issue, and we are now. We are trying to look at people who are, in our opinion, potentially dangerous. And I realize that you can't predict anybody's behavior, anybody in this room.
Ignore the gangs, ignore the drug cartels.
Predict anybody's behavior. But there are certain criteria that the mental health community has for putting people in categories who are potentially dangerous, and try to get those people into treatment. And one of the things that we're in the process of doing is creating a policy board comprised of the county attorney, and Barbara Wall is here tonight. Thanks for coming, Barbara. The judge that deals with issuing these orders and representatives from the mental health providing system to create a policy board along with the police officers to establish policies on how to deal with these individuals. One of the other problems that we really have is we run into these red flags, and you know, people come up to me all the time and say, well, boy, you had all the red flags in this particular case, why didn't you do something about it? Well, the chief can tell you that we have red flags every day, more than a handful probably. But we're not, we don't have the ability to foresee the future or look into people's psyche the way it would be nice to have if we did. But anyway, we're putting together this unit. In addition, we're going to be providing a data system. We don't have a data system. For example, you talk about background checks. When I found this out, I wasn't even aware of it. I was astounded. The law enforcement community provides information to the state police in Arizona. They take that information and provide it to the FBI. And the FBI provides that information back to the gun dealers who are doing the background checks. But did you know if he calls the FBI or I call the FBI, they won't give us the information? That's incredible. I couldn't believe it. Now there are things being done trying to rectify that issue. But these are very complicated problems, and in most communities where we've had these tragedies, when they get to, they all identify the same problem. We're dealing with mentally ill, and it's difficult because we have all these laws that preclude us from doing these things. And we haven't taken that approach here in Tucson. What we're trying to do is systematically identify issues that make it difficult for us to deal with potentially dangerous people. And I think we're probably going to be one of the first areas in the country to do something in a more decisive way than we've been doing. Thank you very much.
What a joke.
As long as you don't introduce me as Chief Miranda.
Chief Miranda. Chief Miranda, Chief isn't here. Your thoughts on this topic?
Okay. It's getting late, so I'm going to keep my comments very brief. But the sheriff brings up a lot of points. As public safety and law enforcement, we often face the brunt of what, unfortunately, in my opinion, society has ignored for quite some time. It ignores these issues and mental health issues until they become explosive and become tragedies and become national and worldwide headlines. Since the year 2000, the FBI has kept statistics on mass casualties of 35 events that they categorize in that capacity, including the January 8th event here in Tucson. 2/3 of the suspects in those mass casualty events are suffering from mental illness. Yet 90% of other violent crimes are committed by people who have no mental illness diagnosis, and oftentimes the mentally ill are the victims of that type of crime. So they're living on a two-edged sword here. And the reason why, as it was said so eloquently earlier by another panel member, is that there is a stigma associated